Welcome everyone to the very first episode of Swede Rolls. I'm Chris.
I'm Toby.
And I'm Martin.
Who is our guest for the very first premiere episode of Swede Rolls.
Best guest, or
Really
at least first guest.
Yes, you are the best guest we've had so far.
That is something indeed. That should go in the record books.
It's quite an accomplishment, really.
Could I get a t-shirt?
No.
Okay.
No.
But you can get a Swede roll?
Could I get one now?
No. Well, I mean, if you want to lie down on the floor, I can roll you around. It's a Swede roll, not a sweet roll.
Oh, dear God.
I'm so funny.
We are going somewhere with this.
We're going somewhere, indeed. This podcast is a brainchild of me and Toby.
Yeah.
And it's going to be us talking about role-playing games and board games and...
Games.
Games.
Probably wide variety of games.
A wide variety. If you're not familiar with me and Toby, we're from Swede Fighters, and we have both quite a long experience playing role-playing games.
Holy crap. How many years has it been?
It's been 20 for me.
I am actually not that much, but maybe 15.
Yeah. If you count computer role-playing games, then how long?
Holy crap. Let's not go into that
Let's not go
discussion.
into there. And with that, we're going to go over to you, Martin, because why don't you give a little introduction about yourself? What's your role-playing experience, and who are you?
Well, my role-playing days, they started about, I think it's going to be soon 22 years from now.
You got me beat.
Yeah. So I'm the most experienced role player.
All right, maybe you should take my seat then.
Well, crap. Oh, well.
I started playing role-playing games at a friend's house when I was 9 or 10.
Yeah.
And I kind of got stuck then. I just loved the freedom of it. The ability to do anything I wanted, or at least what my friends and the game master wanted. So I've and since then I've been playing. Maybe like a break for half a year there or half a year there, but mainly I've been playing every month and sometimes every week. Quite intensively.
Yeah. And you do only pen and paper role-playing games, right? Do you do anything online or?
No. It's just pen and paper. I like the physical feel.
It feels good seeing the people you're playing with.
Yeah, sure. And also being able to maybe do some physical acting as a bit of touch.
Yeah, it gives an extra oomph in what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to picture what's going on when you're sitting in front of a monitor, right?
Yeah, for me it's also kind of like in front of a monitor. My all kind of like computer games for me is about like isolation. I want to be with myself. Fuck everybody else. I don't want anything.
Whoa.
Oh, sorry.
No.
We don't do hard language.
That's okay.
I'm sorry
about it. That's okay.
But I mean, I don't. I just. That's
you want
what
to do it for yourself.
Yeah. So
immersion.
So I don't really. Okay, of course I could do a co-op game because that's fun, but otherwise I don't want to have anything to do with other human beings while I play computer games. So
that's good. And your kind of computer role-playing games would be games like Thief, maybe.
Yeah, it could be. I've played.
Arcanum?
Yeah, sure. Or I played Final Fantasy and I want to say all kinds, but I'm not sure if that's true.
No, there are a large and wide variety of role-playing games. I mean, like JRPGs, CRPGs, which basically JRPGs are.
Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
for
Final
example.
Fantasy and Fire Emblem and
all
those kind of
games.
things. That is a heck of a long time you've been
22
role-playing.
years. You got to have a lot of experience then, right?
Well, yeah, I've been through a lot of groups, a lot of games.
Killing them off one by one.
Well, in the game, yeah. Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. What's your best experience
Whoa.
in role-playing? Or the one that goes to your mind as soon as you think about role-playing?
Well, I would actually say, because I'm actually sitting here with you and you were a part of it, so that kind of naturally popped into my head now. It was a very long Vampire the Masquerade, or rather Vampire the Victorian Ages campaign. We just called it Victorian. How original we were. Yeah. But I just because we had kind of like a culmination game outside at a cabin in the woods. We were sitting around a campfire.
What the hell?
This is true.
And we had been playing this campaign for I think it was more than 2 years.
Yeah, more than 2 years.
And that's not 2 years like some here and some there. And I mean, like 2 years, like every weekend.
This was in the in bygones age when you didn't really have to bother with work or study, stuff like that. Yeah.
No, we kind of frequently turned the clock, and I kind of turned nights into days and everything.
Breakfast at 9
so this
PM.
was kind of like the culmination of our characters that we had really like put a lot of ourselves into, and we were sitting there, and it was night, and the moon was coming up, and it's just a really strong memory. I realize now that I'm not really talking about anything about the actual play.
No, that's important. That's important too. The whole feeling about
because it's
a communal.
Yeah,
right?
it would take quite a few minutes to actually recapitulate what was actually happening there. But in a way, we were actually building a fortress out of dead bodies.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
in the Saharan desert, and this was actually mainly about Victorian gentlemen. So how we ended up there, it's a long story.
A long story. And
God.
we might actually. Oh God, you're not on the Success and Failure podcast, because I was actually going to bring that up. We can go back to that later on, because that's a lot of thanks to our GM we both had.
Daniel.
Daniel. Who might later show up on this podcast, I hope. We'll see.
Sometime.
Yeah. What's your worst memory role playing?
Oh, that one was harder. I think I have a lot of bland moments when the game never really lifted. When it kind of looked at running out in the sand, and nothing's really working. But I can't really remember any kind of like particular really bad moment.
Yeah, I recognize that as well. It's sometimes when you're like, okay, we're gonna start this campaign. We try it for a few times, but nothing really catches on.
Yeah, that's really bad.
Yeah, there's always like these gems that you get when you get started. It's like, oh yes, this is gonna be a long campaign, and those are like perfect. But there are always those few bad straws, so to say.
Yeah, because I'm as you were speaking, I was now realizing that I don't have really like a bad specific moment, but we did have a bad period in the game group the role playing group that we had, because we had like, I think it was for almost a year. I think it was. We had like we made new characters every time, and by this time we were meeting every week, so that was a lot of characters, and we were probably introducing a new member to the group, I think every second week or so, and they didn't work.
No.
So this was a lot of people just talking about what we wanted, and nothing really kind of getting off the ground. So I'm really today impressed with us for as we can just keep on going,
because we were almost burnt out back then.
Yeah.
We were just lying in a pile sometimes. Just, I don't feel like role playing.
I can remember those times when it's like a whole weekend just goes by and we're like, this didn't really work.
No. And that's such a bad feeling.
Yeah, because then it feels almost like that was a wasted weekend. We could have played something else that could have been more interesting.
And you could never find someone who wanted to GM, and then someone finally did it, and it was terrible.
Yes.
Yeah, I think for us the kind of turn came from by one thing, that Victorian campaign that I was talking about earlier, and also it kind of came for me from actually seriously stepping into the role as a game master and really kind of committing to it. And then after those two, at least for me, the role playing has almost always been a really good experience since then.
And it is a communal experience, right? It's because you're with other people, you're crafting something together. But that's a really good introduction. I feel like we really got a feel for what kind of role player you are. I mean, I know, but Toby's...
I have like no idea. No. So that's fine.
Yeah. And we're going to kind of sidle into the topic of this podcast, which is going to be, for this one, dice and stats.
Dice and stats.
Yeah. And whether you need them or you don't need them. Like, what's your view on stats as a character sheet? How do you feel about character sheets, Martin?
I like character sheets. I don't use them very much. I mean, I often kind of fill them in, making characters, and then they kind of stay in a folder. Or quite often we actually, I as I'm in the role of keeping the sheets, it's not unknown for me to actually just lose them amongst my
my
a lot of papers. And even if when we do have them at hand, it's not that often that I actually glance or read or take any notes on the character sheets, but I still do love them.
Right.
Yeah, I understand that thing perfectly, because most of the time when I role play, I mostly like make my character and have the sheet in front of me, but it's basically just stats to see how this character is.
Yeah.
Not like any specific roles or anything. It's just like
It's
he
kind
has
of
this.
reference,
It's kind of reference, like this is his personality. He has this kind of thing going for him. And yeah, so I'm not particularly much for rolling.
No. Yeah, this role playing and this role playing, right?
Yeah.
Small pause.
Small pause. Yeah. I mean, I've always kind of been an enemy to Dungeons and Dragons' way of doing dungeon crawling. You know, not an enemy, but I kind of feel like, if I can give a little example here, I went to a con in the US. I went to PAX, Penny Arcade Expo, and I was allowed to join a small group of playing Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition, which I'd already played, but this was, for beginners. And we were given character sheets, and they were like, okay, you're just going to do a dungeon. I was surprised by how little focus there was on describing the characters and how we interacted with each other. It was like,
or right, didn't.
Or we didn't. Yeah, exactly. Go into the dungeon, start killing things. And that was an hour, and then it was done.
What?
And I feel like that's kind of the Dungeons and Dragons way of playing. It's like the players rolling their way to success. And like we've grown up with World of Darkness, right?
Oh yeah.
Was that the game you started with?
I think that was my first role-playing game ever was probably Mutant 2, Swedish role-playing game.
Yes.
Well, I started with Drakar och Demoner Chronopia.
Oh wow, that's a great game to start with.
It's my first ever playing episode. I kind of lent one of my friends Joachim, who actually pulled me into this world. Thank you very much.
Joachim, you're welcome to join us here sometime.
He lent me his troll berserker, who
cool.
was a
wait, his character?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we went at his place after school, and this is my character. You could play him, and he was game master.
Oh, cool.
And then I just kind of went around into the city, because Chronopia is like a large fantasy
huge
city.
It's like kind of like Sigil and Torment, right? Planescape.
Yeah, even though a bit less tormenty.
Yeah.
Perfect word there.
No,
but I mean, because I started with that game and then went on to Drakar och Demoner, which is a kind of Swedish variant of Dungeons and Dragons, even though a bit less technical.
Yeah. I feel like a game that has ducks and Donald Duck ducks as playable race, that it's not as serious.
No.
It doesn't take itself as serious.
But then we kind of went on in my group into games from this Swedish company called Neo Games.
Oh, yes.
So we went into Neotech and Eon, which is first a dystopian sci-fi.
Neotech is dystopian sci-fi.
Yeah, it's not sci-fi, it's cyberpunk.
Yeah,
it's a cyberpunk game, and Eon is a quote-unquote realistic fantasy game.
Yeah, it's low fantasy, right? That would be the term for it. Yeah.
Low fantasy. So, and those kind of games taught us a lot about kind of how reality, or just kind of think how things would work if there was elves in the real world. How would they imaginably be interacting with other races and everything? So
and Eon was released in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
And so this was before all the Dragon Age games and stuff like that had the elves as not cool high elves,
No, and of course it was probably some kind of novel or something that did this before, but for me it was a great novelty to see a game where they actually tried to realistically depict dwarfs, elves, and they don't have any orcs, but they do have the equivalent of them, and they're named Tirax. And for example, they are in a matriarchal society,
which is really cool.
They're really cool, and all of them they really work, and you can actually see the depth of character when they invent a history and a culture why they would act like that. And I think I've always taken those approaches to role-playing game with me since then.
I mean, Toby, you've played a bunch of Eon too, right?
Yes,
I played more Neotech, I think.
I played Neotech until the time when I bled to death. by a roll. Because okay, so Neo games have a thing with as it is, when you roll a 6, you take that 6 and you roll 2 dice instead.
Oh yeah, it explodes into 2 more dice.
Exactly. So it exploded exponentially until my character, they were going to set a scalpel into his chest, and then he just burst. And there was nothing left of him.
And that is so what this podcast is about, right? Because we're talking about dice rolling, and that's so unrealistic.
Yes.
And Neo games are kind of known for having a lot of tables and a lot of charts to present some kind of semi-realistic setting.
Yes.
But it kind of doesn't. Sometimes it breaks reality. You know, and you can get a snowball in your face, and you die. Your head falls off.
Yeah, but I mean, I went into that, and the great difference was that you didn't have any hit points. You didn't have any. It was like a brand new world, because you have like stats for this is how much blood you have, this is how much physical trauma you can take, this is how much pain you can take, and everything. And suddenly, role playing went from this is just some guards. They're not important. We're gonna go and kill the monster. In Eon, you realized quite quickly, because in all Neo games you kind of die a lot.
Oh yeah,
That's kind of their thing.
It's very easy.
Oh yeah.
Because we went with our minds from Drakar and Demoner, kind of like a Dungeons and Dragons mind. We went into Eon, and then we were like 3 adventurers, and then we met like
I can picture it. Yeah,
we met 4 like city guards.
Big mistake.
And we were like, 2 city guards with spears and 2 city guards with shields and swords. How bad could it be?
Deal. Yeah.
Oh, they killed us. They killed us all.
And you have a history of making realistic NPCs when we play Eon that just wipe the floor with us all the time. I love it.
Yeah, because suddenly, because when they were acting kind of realistically, the people with shields, they were protecting their fellow city watchmen, and the ones with spears, they were actually using the length of the spears to push us, and we didn't stand a chance, because we didn't work together.
Who could imagine that people trained since their teens to become guards would actually be capable at their jobs, right?
Yeah.
Who could have imagined?
Holy crap. Right. That's another thing. If you're okay, so in Eon, if you are a small person, tiny person.
The Hobbit equivalent.
Yes, the Hobbit equivalent. If you stand on a table, you get extra bonuses.
What?
Apparently.
Really? I had no idea.
Probably by height, because you are higher up, and if you have a spear, you have a bonus to actually hit someone.
So stupid. So
but even though they're on the same height level by the head.
I guess it makes sense that you compensate with standing on a table, but.
Because Neo games, I think they set out to kind of create a rule system to actually kind of to be able to, like, just the roll of a D20 was really like a very blunt instrument.
Yeah.
And so they set out to make a couple of rules to try to simulate things a lot more. And they also build this game system kind of scalable, because you had the ground rules, and then they also had a lot of add-on rules.
Yeah.
So I think I started when I was younger. I think it was a really good process of going into this kind of rules heavy to actually just kind of get a reality check.
Yeah.
This is really dangerous to jump off cliffs. And just kind of get this into my action movie oriented brain. Then as the more we played Eon and other such games, the less energy to actually use the shards and use the dice and everything we had. So we kind of used the game system less and less and less and less.
Yeah, and I think that might be the reason. I think if I'm understanding you correctly, it's like this system kind of teaches you not to overpower or overplay the rules, right? Because like Eon, for example, is one of those games where you roll all your stats as well. You don't get to choose your stats.
No.
And you also roll your personality if you want.
Yeah, that is...
Which can result in some pretty extreme stuff.
They're holy crap, making a character takes quite a while.
18 lust.
Yeah.
But I love the character creation process.
Oh yeah, it's
great. It's
great.
really, you can really get like a nice feel of like, this person has gone through this in his childhood, he's done this in his life and everything.
These are all his relatives.
Yeah. Holy crap! Don't go through that thing. Holy,
a whole day.
Yeah. To this day, I quite often we use the one of the Neo games character creation ways, even if we're not gonna play with that system at all.
Yeah,
and even if
it's just extensive.
And even if we, after we finished with these character sheets, never actually use them again. We have them there. When I'm game master, I kind of roll.
Yeah.
I make a roll, or I ask the player to make a roll, and because I really do like the occasional moment of randomness.
Oh yeah.
That's what I do like. Otherwise, the game master has really to make up your mind the entire time about everything.
But I might as well flip a coin then.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's just that a die is a bit more. It's simpler.
Yeah. And you kind of want your super cool assassin trained by the wizard autocracy to actually be good at something that he's doing, right?
Yeah, because I hate this thing about rolling dice for everything. Like if you, as you say, if you're like the highly trained super assassin and you're like, I want to sneak up this corridor. Why would you make a roll?
And that's true.
That is...
unless it's something special about the corridor. Because after 15 years of sneaking up corridors, you really should be able to do that.
You should be pretty good at it.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you fumble. And the guards notice you. Oh, there's an assassin. Let's go take him out or something.
Yeah, I mean, of course we could, as a game master, I could just roll a die and say that this specific time you're actually missing this thing.
Yeah.
Of course we could do that. But I've been into games where if I were to sneak the 29th time through the same corridor, I would have to roll with the dice and see it just makes me really frustrated.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. And I mean, we've made a lot of characters and we've cheated a lot while making characters. Technically, I mean, we re-roll stats and we like, oh no, I feel like having 14 anger. We still roll though. We always roll, but like, no, re-roll it again. Like, why do you do that?
I never really did that. Cheated.
You're hardcore.
But in the other system, the new variety of World of Darkness. I and my group found a way how to cheat in points. In the system.
Okay. In New World of Darkness.
Yes, in New World of Darkness. Yeah. Because apparently, in somewhat way, you can like lose some humanity or whatever it was. And then if you just take away that, you get some experience, and then you can like put them extra points into attributes and. Holy crap, I made up a whole system so I could get better stats than everyone else and still be...
Did you actually use it while playing?
I used it for creating a few characters, and then I was like, no.
No, it's... I think World of Darkness especially is the kind of game where you don't want to... where it's so much more fun if the cheats and character sheet is just a guideline, right?
Yes.
Not the set in stone.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I view any rule system. It's like a tool.
Yeah.
And I use it mostly either to create some kind of drama that I would feel would be
a risk.
A risk. Maybe it would be some. We have used battle systems to simulate fighting, because it could be quite annoying or hard or time-consuming to do it yourselves, even if by nowadays I mostly do it myself anyway. But I mean, a tool could always be used for what you wanted to do.
Exactly.
So we kind of use the template, the tool. We start with the character creation, but as soon as you get the feeling for that kind of the character is actually lifting from the sheet, you kind of see through the words and see something behind. I immediately start bending the rules or whatever you say to start to kind of take and lift that character to find it. So I don't see it as cheating, even if it's technically so, I guess. But I don't think what would it be cheating against?
No, it's hard. It's hard to say.
So the few years, or rather, the last years I've been role playing, I've mostly been role playing like GURPS, which is an extensive system.
Generic universal role play system.
Yes, but we mostly make the characters of it because there's such an extensive amount of books, and you can get the character exactly as you want it.
GURPS is also known as generally unplayable role-playing system.
Yes, but that's why you don't roll.
Exactly. But I like GURPS.
Yes, making a character in it is really good because you can get like anything
very
you
extensive,
want.
Very extensive rule set.
But if you roll, you are screwed.
Yeah.
It is hard.
Yeah, I got the Discworld GURPS role-playing system one.
No.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah, I think the for me the GURPS has always been. I always seen them as a producer that makes a lot of fun books, because you could always get.
Very extensive.
I got for myself. I got a book about shapeshifters. It's a whole book about different kind of shapeshifters in different cultures. I love it.
Yeah.
Alternate
Biotech,
Earths and everything.
yeah.
So
World War II is really good.
Okay.
It's super thick. It's just everything about World War II.
And that's kind of how I buy role-playing games nowadays. I buy it because I want the inspirations, I want the setting or the game world, and sometimes I kind of want to support
Small houses.
Small houses. Yeah. But otherwise, I'm not really shopping for systems, because we either play nowadays one version of the World of Darkness system, or one version of the kind of the Neo game system.
Yeah.
Both of them very much more freeform than rules lawyer.
An interesting side note, by the way, we played World of Darkness for 15, 16 years together, right?
Yeah.
I've played it for a long time. I got the Vampire book when I was 13, I think. Last year was the first time I learned the combat system for World of Darkness.
What? You know the combat system?
It is really bad. It's not fun at all.
Oh, yeah.
We've never used it properly. We're just and then done. Initiative is super weird.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just like...
Then the question is it the old system?
Oh, the old system, yeah.
Holy crap, that's bogus.
It's really bad.
Yes.
Because the higher dice... Oh, sorry.
Yeah. If you are a werewolf, you are unkillable.
Yeah,
Yes,
pretty much.
You are basically unkillable because you have rage points.
We actually used the fighting system in my campaign, and the first thing that happened was that the were-rat, which was an NPC, threw one of the players into the sun, and he died. I was like, okay. He runs away. The were-rat runs away. You won! I was like, I was like, the rules are crazy.
Yes.
I mean, concerning rules, as the first game I got, I already told you, was this Drakar Demoner Chronopia.
Yeah.
And I think just as in the old Drakar Demoner, it had a rules section, and I always remembered this, and always kind of set the tone for role playing for me from this. The first two rules are very kind of famous in Swedish role playing. I think maybe they're from somewhere else, and the first rule is the game master is always right. And the second rule is, if rule number 1 should not be true, see rule number 1.
I love it.
Great.
So it's just, so I never really got the thing where you can see or hear about players actually arguing with the game master. I've never had that, because it's about creating something together.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the game master is actually creating the world, and you're leaning yourself on a toolbox, and the game system is one of them, or kind of rule system. The setting is another, but the game master is kind of the one, the builder doing all of this work. So I would never really kind of say, like, I don't think you use the rule systems correctly now.
We're actually kind of drifting into the third podcast here.
Oh, sorry.
No, don't worry about it. It's an
God.
interesting discussion. But Toby wanted to say something, right?
No, I totally agree about this, because there are settings which you can play in, but the most fun ones are probably the ones that the game master tells by himself to like get you to be more involved with, even if you haven't read any of the books of the certain system or anything. He can always like wrap you in his own stories. Yeah. And that is probably...
It's fun, yeah. It's more fun in World of Darkness when you don't know everything.
Yeah, it is. It's a very unknown world.
And speaking of that, if we're going to go back to the topic of stats and stuff like that, you have games like World of Darkness. Again, we're going to do a lot of referencing to those games. And they have nature and demeanor. And nature is, for those of you who don't know, in the new system, they use virtue and vice. But in this system, if you role play according to your nature, right, you actually get a willpower point back, and willpowers are used to boost whatever. So this is kind of rewarding players for playing a specific type of character. Do you guys think this is a good thing, or do you think it's a bad thing?
I mean, sometimes it's makes it a little bit. I don't know. In the old World of Darkness, it's much easier to adapt to that than the new World of Darkness, because new World of Darkness only has 7.
Oh yeah, 7 virtues and 7 vices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the old World of Darkness, there are a lot more, which is a lot easier to get done, get your character to be, if you want to.
I agree.
Well, I like them when you see kind of like NPCs. Non-player characters.
Yeah. Sorry, we've been throwing the lingo around. We'll have some kind of dictionary thing on the website.
Sure. Yeah. When I see like World of Darkness NPCs, then I really do appreciate the nature and demeanor system, or akin, because it's really kind of very short. Together with the concept, tells me what is this character and how do I play it.
Yeah. What's his goal?
Or so it's also a base, I think, for your own character, but I think it's a way too shallow for your own character.
It is very shallow.
Because I made a character and then I kind of artificially put a nature and a demeanor on it, and we kind of never act on them, because I feel that generally our playing and our character creation and our character depictions have been a lot more nuanced and deep than nature and demeanors are.
If you pick monster as a nature, for example, there's very different ways of interpreting that.
Yes.
I think the intention is to provide players with some kind of
starting point.
Starting point.
And then I think it's very good. I'm not really sure about having a kind of reward system for following your nature. Because I'm not really sure if following your nature or kind of the innermost of your character is actually good character playing.
That's true.
It doesn't at all have to be. It might be. Yeah. And also I think good role-playing should be something that generates enjoyment for the entire group, not something that the game master has to award you points for.
No, exactly. Because when I usually role-play World of Darkness things, it's like, okay, why would we have willpower? It is a stat we probably don't use because we don't roll that much.
No, exactly.
We don't.
You kind of forget about it.
Yeah, exactly. We kind of forget about it, and we usually make standard rolls for if we're in a fight or whatever. But that's probably the only times we ever use.
And it's interesting because it does have a reference sheet that tells you, if you have willpower 6, you have this strong will. Yeah. But that's such a minor thing. Like, they changed that in New World Darkness, but the willpower is like its own separate category, sort of.
It is. My recommendation is probably if you're making a character, don't really care about the nature, demeanor, or virtue or vice. Just play your character. Yeah. Yeah. You are your character, and as long as you're enjoying playing that character, that's what the point is.
Oh, yeah. And of course, everybody else is enjoying it as well.
Yeah. Well, that is a whole category of talking about your relationship to other players.
Sure. I just want to have it said that I think that you're never. No man is an island. No, but
I mean, it's true.
No, because that was also something that I realized that we were doing as we were younger. We were also playing characters that we wanted to play, but didn't really contribute anything to the other players. Exactly. So we were a lot of players playing like solo together, and it kind of worked. Not very good.
You had the trench coat wearing character with 6 guns, and then you had the. Hip hop listening Buddhist monk and
Metallica listening
hip Buddhist who also had 6 guns.
What? What's with the 6 guns?
Oh, you don't want to know. Martin's best campaign so far.
Yeah. Sure, it's my best one.
It was. It did not go as you planned.
I'm not really sure I planned very much in that one, but okay.
But yeah, I guess the general consensus we have here is that don't let it get in the way. Like, don't let dice and stats get in the way of a good story. Right?
No. Even if I do sense that we're getting to the end of this program, but I think that maybe we could, or you guys should have like a deeper talk about kind of randomness and dice. And when you should make rolls and what rolls should really symbolize. Because I think there's a lot of interesting things about that.
Good thing I have a pen. I'll write it down after we're done.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to roll. We're gonna have to keep rolling. And thank you very much for coming to our podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome. Good guest. Good first guest. Best first guest. And you will be showing up in about 3 weeks, I think, for character creation, which is something we've touched upon here.
Yeah, but I think we're going to go a bit deeper into it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It can go very deep.
Deeper. And thank you very much for listening, everyone.
And don't forget, play a lot of role-playing games until next time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Until then,
Keep rolling.
keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Thank you for listening to Swede Rolls. Your support means the world to us. The music you heard playing at the start and the end of this episode is Fireside Tales by Darren Curtis. The intent of this podcast is to discuss themes and issues in all manner of gaming, but primarily focused on the RPG genre. If you have any comments or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Pay us a visit at swederolls.wordpress.com, where you can also learn about the people doing this podcast and more. For our Let's Play channel, check us out at youtube.com/Swede_Fighters. And until next time, keep rolling.